Oh, hi there. I'm John with Hops and Brews. You caught me just trying to enjoy this wonderful double IPA. That is delicious. What is a double IPA, you ask? Good question. Let's find out. So amongst my friends and while owning a taproom, I've gotten this question asked a lot. What makes a double IPA a double IPA? Well, I'm going to walk you through some of the history and kind of try to clarify some of the misconceptions of what a double IPA can be. And speaking of double IPAs, tonight we'll be enjoying Toppling Goliath's King Sue Imperial IPA. This beer comes in at 7.8% ABV, 100 IBUs. It gets an average rating on Untappd of 4.45. This luscious hazy double IPA gains its hint of mango, orange, and pineapple from the use of the delicious Citra hop. Now, to talk about double IPAs, I have to give you a quick little history of just the IPA in general. Now, the IPA really gets its roots from the English Pale Ale in the 1780s. Then we have to jump to the 1830s when they started doing the East India trade routes. And they wanted to ship their beer from England to India. So the sailors thought, how do we keep this beer fresh? Well, we're gonna load it with a bunch of hops. And the hops acted like a preservative because of the vitamins and minerals in it. But what it also did caused this big bitterness. Over time, people started enjoying it, and they called it the India Pale Ale. Instead of the English Pale Ale, it was now the India Pale Ale because that's what they drank in India, but it was an English beer. Hence why we have to talk about the English Pale Ale. Now we have to jump way into the future now to get to the very first double IPA, and even then, it was more called the Great American Beer Experience. Now we have to get to 1994 to get to what we could probably consider the very first example of a double IPA. Now, from what people can figure out, the very first example of a double IPA came from Vinnie Caruso in 1994 from Blind Pig Brewing, which is now unfortunately closed. And the second example can actually be accredited to Rogue Brewing, releasing their I2PA in 1996. And Stone takes the third place in the second anniversary ale they brewed in 1998. And its first appearance in the Great American Beer Festival under its own category didn't take place till 2003. And you don't even recognize a new brewery till they've released their first double IPA. That's how big this category is in beer culture. Now, if you're starting out beer drinking or doing a home brew, you might be thinking, what makes an Imperial IPA an Imperial IPA? And you talk amongst your friends. Most of them are probably going to say one thing: ABV. It's got to have big ABV. It's got to be like 10% to be considered an Imperial IPA. Well, technically, no. Yes, technically, classification is a much higher level of alcohol compared to its little brother, the IPA, or even smaller brother, the Pale Ale. But how big do you need to get to be classified as a double IPA? And most people are going to say you need to be 8, 9, possibly even 10% to be classified as a double IPA. Now, I did my research. I really couldn't find anything in the Brewers Association to classify this category as what ABV it needs. Most of the time, the classification of a double IPA means two things. You double the malt and you double the hops. That's all you have to do. Now, doing that will most likely guarantee you a higher ABV, but depending upon the yeast strain you do, the yeast might not be able to handle that amount of alcohol, or you might be looking for a much sweeter body, so you don't want it to eat all the sugars. All of these things come together in making a beer. But what really classifies an Imperial Double IPA as an Imperial Double IPA? So here's what the Beer Judge Classification Program identifies as a double/imperial IPA. You need to have a color range between 6 and 14 SRMs. This is the color of the body, the beer itself. Your original gravity needs to be between 1.065 and 1.085 original gravity. Your final gravity cannot exceed 1.008 to 1.018 final gravity. Your IBUs must be within 60 to 120 IBUs. And your alcohol, this is the big one that everyone talks about. Your alcohol needs to range from 7.5 to 10%. So if you're a 7.4, you are not technically classified as a double IPA. If you are 10.01, you are now considered a triple IPA. So those are the characteristics that make an Imperial Double IPA a double IPA. So if your friend ever tells you, hey, that's not a double IPA, it needs to be 8% or higher, you can tell them, technically, 7.5% is classified as a double IPA. But yes, all the really good double IPAs are probably 9-10%. Although this is a pretty damn good one itself. And it barely makes that category. So now you know what makes a double IPA a double IPA. Cheers, guys.